What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Courtside TV. Today, we're going to be talking about and highlighting all of the big moves made this NFL offseason and kind of give like early predictions on how we think that's going to affect everything coming up this coming season. So we're going to start off on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to talk about what we thought were the 5 biggest moves made by teams around the league. And the first one that I want to talk about was the first move to happen, which was the AB Antonio Brown trade to the Raiders. And obviously he got traded to the Raiders and then he was signed to a massive extension. So he's going to be in Oakland for the foreseeable future. And I think that's a really interesting move for the Raiders because they're a team that traded away Amari Cooper. They traded away Khalil Mack this past season with John Gruden coming in. And they finally have that guy again that Derek Carr can just absolutely chuck bombs to. And I think that's honestly, it's going to hurt them more than it's going to help them. That's kind of my bold prediction that for like this NFL offseason, that the AB trade isn't going to help Oakland as much as everyone thinks, because Derek Carr, when Amari Cooper was there, he'd just throw Amari Cooper the ball. And when Amari Cooper was gone, you could actually see him start to develop a little bit as a passer and actually make reads and look through his progressions. But now that he has a top receiver in the league again, he's just going to go back to focusing on that one target. And with no run game, because Latavius Murray wasn't on the team this past season. But again, with no run game, he's going to just go back to that same motive of just chucking the ball up. So we can get you guys quick thoughts on this AB trade to begin with.
I thought the AB trade to the Raiders was really interesting because, like Connor had mentioned, they traded away Khalil Mack, they traded away Amari Cooper, and it just felt like John Gruden was kind of going into complete rebuild mode, just get a bunch of draft picks, start getting young guys developing. So I was kind of surprised when they traded for AB. I mean, I guess if you have the opportunity to trade for AB, why wouldn't you? He's one of the best wide receivers in the league, arguably the best. So if you had the opportunity to trade for him, obviously you would entertain that, and they did, having to give up, several draft picks and whatnot. I can't remember the exact details of the trade, but I think, I mean, I know the whole ending in Pittsburgh was really ugly with, Le'Veon and Antonio Brown and Big Ben and Mike Tomlin. That whole thing was just kind of an ugly situation, but I think a new locker room is gonna be what, makes a difference for these guys, that being Antonio Brown. We'll talk about Le'Veon Bell here shortly as well. I like Derek Carr. I mean, I know he kind of had a really, really good start to his career and then kind of leveled out a little bit and didn't continue to, get better as people thought he would. But I think he's going to have a good year. Having Antonio Brown's only going to help that. I get what Connor's saying. It might hurt them more than it helps them, but this will definitely help Derek Carr, because when you got a guy like Antonio Brown to throw to, that's going to help any quarterback. So I was kind of interested. I was kind of, surprised they made that move, like I said, because I figured they were just going into complete rebuild mode. But, like I said, it's a good move. If you got the chance to get him, why not? And he's, with a new QB, this will be like a new chapter for his career. And I'm really excited to see it, because I think he'll do really good there. So.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Logan, if you have an opportunity to go get a top tier wide receiver like that, you pretty much have to do it. I think I saw something on Twitter that said they gave up Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, and whatever draft picks they gave up, and they ended up getting Antonio Brown, and it looked like more first-round draft picks out of that. So I think the goal still is a rebuild, but now they have some guys offensively that can help. They have won before, because Derek Carr had that 12-4 season with the Raiders, I think, and then Antonio Brown's obviously won before. So hopefully, I guess they're kind of going to count on Antonio Brown to be a leader there, rather than, and just hope he's not a locker room issue. I guess we'll all find out who was really the issue in Pittsburgh when, based on how Antonio Brown does with Oakland, how Le'Veon does with the Jets. So I guess we'll kind of see how that turns out. But I just want to point out that there's been a number of wide receivers who have gone to Oakland, like very talented receivers. Obviously, Amari Cooper got drafted there, Michael Crabtree, Jordy Nelson, that have played with Derek Carr. And I mean, it's kind of where their careers go to die. I'm going to be honest. Like, Jordy Nelson has not done anything since he left Green Bay. And Amari Cooper did a lot better when he went to Dallas. And I just think, Antonio Brown's obviously a very, very talented receiver, But going in there where there's already a lot of turmoil with John Gruden's roster turnover, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic to see how that plays out.
Yep. Okay. So moving on to the, I'd say, biggest move for free agency. Before we get to the clearly biased opinion out of us three, we're going to go ahead and get the unbiased stuff out of the way. I think the Le'Veon Bell deal could have gone a lot worse for the New York Jets. I think they got actually a really good deal because back in December, a sports writer tweeted at Le'Veon, what would it take for Le'Veon to play there? And he said 60 million. And no, the deal was around 50 million, right? 4 years, 50 million, 52.5 million. Yeah. So, I mean, they got him at 7.5 million under what he said he would play at bare minimum in New York. He lost money compared to sitting out next season. So I think they got a really good deal for him. I figured they were going to overpay him like crazy, pushing 60, 70 million. That being said, Le'Veon Bell was amazing in Pittsburgh. He was running behind the best offensive line, arguably in NFL history. He took a year off from the league. He was playing Fortnite all year. Like, no one knows how good he's really going to be in a place that doesn't have an all-pro line and after a year off. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but I think there's definitely going to be regression, and he's definitely going to have a max number of carries because the Jets are going to hand that ball off and let Sam Darnold work around that run game, which is going to help Sam Darnold develop into a better quarterback. But at the same time, it's going to kind of stunt his growth because they're not letting him throw the ball like they did last season. So in one way, it's going to help because it's going to open up the passing game for more passing situations if they can establish a run game early on. But you're also not giving him as many opportunities to work out of bad situations for himself. So I don't know. I think other moves that they made were more important, honestly. I think that moves on defense help them more than the Le'Veon move. But I think the Le'Veon move definitely is going to put them in a potential wild card spot. So, Logan, get your opinion on this.
Yeah, so I want to just say one more quick thing about the Antonio Brown because that's going to kind of lead into my Le'Veon Bell. So Antonio Brown took a huge risk by demanding for a trade, and we've seen that with a guy like Anthony Davis, and we see how that can turn out. It can just completely flip I mean, the Steelers franchise was already kind of going downhill with the whole locker room dynamic and Le'Veon sitting out, but with Antonio Brown, he took a huge risk by demanding a trade. And, he could have gone to the Cardinals. Like, he could have gone to any team, a really bad team, a really good team. It's a risk. He didn't know. He went to the Raiders, who had a bad year last year, but they've had good years recently. And he ended up getting a huge extension. So it actually worked out for him. And leading into Le'Veon, obviously, yeah, he sat out the entire year. And he could have signed – the most money he could have gotten this year would have been if he had stayed with Pittsburgh and signed his extension or whatever it would have been. That's the most money he could have gotten. Because he sat out the entire year, I don't know how much of this – there was a lot of rumors on Twitter about Le'Veon, Raiders, Jets, Ravens. There were several rumors. But I think – this is just what I personally think. I'm not saying I've seen this or anything. I think Le'Veon – wasn't getting nearly as good offers as he expected from any teams that wanted him. And so he kind of had to look and decide. He's like, okay, I can go to New York, Baltimore, wherever. I think, I can't remember, Baltimore might not have offered him, or some of the teams didn't offer him. But I think he wasn't getting as good of offers as he thought he would be. And I think he had to kind of settle with the Jets offer. It's still a decent offer, but he could have been making a lot more. And, with a young quarterback in Sam Darnold, coming up with Le'Veon, that'll be good for both of them. I think they can both learn from each other, both be good pieces for each other. Jets got some pieces around them, obviously on offense. They're starting to build the defense up a little more. But yeah, so that was just my idea. Antonio Brown took a risk, and also I think sitting out for Le'Veon Bell really screwed him up because if he would have played and had a huge season, then he would have gotten a massive deal. Like, no doubt about it. If he would have had a great season, like, ton of yards, ton of touchdowns, whatever, and Steelers go deep in the playoffs or something, he's got a big year, I think he would have gotten a huge deal and a better deal. So, but it's over now. He signed with the Jets, and I'm excited to see him on a new team. It'll be really weird, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be kind of long-winded here because this is going to make me look, like I actually kind of paid attention to this. So, Le'Veon sign, we kind of discussed the contract. I really, being a Jets fan, obviously, I really wanted him on my team. I think it's really good for the Jets because, last year a lot of our playmakers got hurt, and the ones that were there, even the ones that got hurt, weren't exactly like the biggest names out there. Our number one receiver is Robbie Anderson, who, like, I think he's done a great job, but I think he's more of a secondary receiver because he's a very fast guy, but he's not, you're not gonna like lob it up to. He's not like a Julio Jones. So I think we needed more playmakers on offense, and I think Le'Veon Bell is just that. I think he's going to be, obviously he's going to be the starting running back, but I think his dynamic in the passing game is going to make what's really going to make him super effective because our running backs last year were Bilal Powell and Isaiah Crowell, and those names just don't exactly compare to Le'Veon. I think that having like a guy that's actually a star is going to help Darnold, who remember was over the last 4 weeks had the best quarterback rating in the NFL with a lot of injuries. So I think that that's going to help um, Sam Darnold's growth. I think Le'Veon, obviously he might have been able to make more money doing other things and taking that year off. Yeah, that is a risk. And I think he will probably come in kind of rusty, but having that year off his body of not taking hits every day as a running back, I think that that's going to help, his longevity in the league. Had he played that year, Logan, like you said, and had that really good year, he still would have been taking a lot of hits, which could have done damage to his body. So I think that this is going to actually help with the length of his career. And also just having a star like that, it's going to help the whole offense, going to help put the defense like not as bad of field position. Because a lot of times last year with a young offense and not a ton of talent, especially on the offensive line, it put the defense in very bad positions. So even though we had some talented guys, they were never in a good position really to make plays. And now making a couple other signings like we did, I think that the team is really set up for success coming like this year.
All right, so moving into what I would say is easily the most impactful, like the day that it happened, OBJ being traded to the Browns. I mean, OBJ and Jarvis Landry on the same team really isn't fair. I mean, and mix that with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Baker Mayfield and their defense, which has only gotten better. I think they have a legitimate shot at least making the playoffs this year, if not making a deep run, just depending on how Baker develops and how their coaching situation goes down. But I think, honestly, that the Giants really screwed themselves. I don't know why you sign a player to a massive extension and then deal him 2-3 months later. It's not a good look when your owner comes out and say, we didn't sign OBJ to trade him and then trades him. I think Saquon needs to get out of New York ASAP because if they're going to treat OBJ like that, who knows what they're going to do to Saquon. But OBJ to the Browns, it really, I mean, that's your best 1-2 punch in the league now. OBJ and Jarvis, there's no debate who has the best wide receivers in the league. I think they're going to be a dangerous team, and I think they have the AFC North wrapped up. Steelers aren't a threat. We'll talk about the Ravens in a little bit. But, I mean, there's really no other competition there. So I think this is going to be the turning point for the Browns, and they're finally going to be a team that is relevant again. So, Logan, just get your thoughts on OBJ.
Yeah, the OBJ trade was very surprising, and it feels like the Giants were looking at the wrong thing. Like, they have issues, obviously, and it feels like they kind of did the wrong thing to try to fix those issues. I think their next step should be drafting their next quarterback because Eli is at the end of his career. He may only play 1 or 2 more years. And I think everyone will agree that Eli is most likely the problem there. They got a lot of issues. They're just, it's rough there right now. But I think, everyone focuses on the quarterback, and that's their next thing. So I hate that, although obviously OBJ did have, some issues on and off the field, but with his emotion and stuff like that. But I just feel like they looked at the wrong problem. And I wouldn't even call OBJ a problem. Obviously, he's had injuries and some issues, but this is huge for the Browns. Now, I will say the Browns did lose a very valuable piece in Jabril Peppers on the defensive side of the ball. He had a breakout year after he had an okay rookie year, not the best, but he had a really, really good season this year and was starting to really break out. So that's a fairly big loss for the Browns. I mean, obviously OBJ is more impactful than Jabril Peppers, but I mean different sides of the ball. But that's a big loss. I mean, I think with the young defenders they have coming up, I think they'll be okay. It's a good, pickup for the Giants to get Jabril. I mean, they lost OBJ, so that's huge. But I mean, getting Jabril, okay, yeah, that's cool. They got some draft picks, so just kind of a trade for the Giants because I know they had their, their issues with OBJ, but like Connor said, they just signed him to the huge extension and then trade him away. So it was very surprising. I agree with Connor. I think the Browns have that division. I wouldn't say locked up, but they are the favorite for sure. They already showed how they know how to win. They're starting to know how to win already. I mean, I believe they won 7 or 8 games this past year, so they're already showing they know how to win. But anyway, I'll send it on to Noah.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what the Giants were thinking here. They could have, they had the 6th pick. I think they could have gotten Dwayne Haskins for sure, possibly Kyler Murray. I think they're talking about him possibly even going number 1 though. So I don't know that they could actually get Kyler Murray, but still they could have a younger version of what the Steelers had with Le'Veon, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben, and they could have had, a rookie quarterback, 2nd-year running back, and OBJ has only been in the league a couple of years. And I think that could have been a really dominant trio, but, they decided to do that and stick with Eli Manning. So like Connor said, it would be really cool for Saquon to get out of there, but I don't see how he does. So I think it might end up being like Barry Sanders, where he's a super talented running back who ends up wasting his career away in a crappy franchise. Just because the Lions didn't win while he was there that much. As far as the Browns, they are definitely in win now mode, which is actually it's amazing how quickly they were able to turn around from 0-16 to now the favorite to win a division in just 2 years. I think, I love Baker and I really do hope he does well, but this is putting a lot of pressure on him to really win now because there's a lot. Obviously, there's so much talent around him now. There's gonna be lofty expectations with everything around him. So this will be Baker's opportunity to show, I'm for real, I'm legit, because he's got no excuses now, which I think he'll do fine. But I'm just saying it's putting a lot of pressure on the organization to win now for a culture that doesn't have a lot of winning within their team. It'll be very interesting to watch exactly how that plays out because of the lofty expectations now with all that talent.
All right, yeah, I agree with both of those. And just moving on to the last 2 names, I want to cover on offense really quick, just kind of do it quick so we can move on to bigger names. Latavius Murray to the Saints, that creates a deadly 1-2 punch with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. I think that's going to propel the Saints back to the NFC Championship and potentially the Super Bowl. And Nick Foles to the Jags, I think that move does not help the Jacksonville Jaguars at all from Blake Bortles. Just kind of funny praising Nick Foles in our sports and ministry video, and it's kind of me knocking him now. But I don't think Nick Foles is a good quarterback. I think he's good under pressure, and that's when he's in the playoffs and when it counts. I mean, he started the first couple games this past year for the Eagles, and he didn't do that good. So I just don't think he's going to be able to perform, especially when the Jags don't have that many weapons. I mean, they have Leonard Fournette, but outside of that, they don't have the best receivers. Their defense it's not what it was in 2 seasons ago when they were in the AFC Championship. So I just think that's it was a big contract and it was a weird move for someone that's not a proven winner. And that's why they got rid of Blake Bortles. So I don't know why you go to someone who can't succeed consistently in the regular season. So just move on to Logan and get those 2 names real quick before we move on to defense.
Yeah, so with the Nick Foles, that's just kind of signing for me. I mean, obviously, yeah, he had a great Super Bowl. Like Connor said, I wouldn't really say it's a big upgrade from Blake Bortles. Bortles had his ups and downs, and Nick Foles has had his ups and downs as well. Leonard Fournette, I think, is a really, really good back in this league. Probably a little underrated, personally. I mean, he's had some injuries, but I think, when he's healthy, I think he's one of the better backs in the league for sure. But yeah, Jaguars, I mean, they had that really, really good year where they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. And then last year was supposed to be, a step up from that. They're supposed to get even better and then just just crap. It was just a really bad year for them. Jalen Ramsey, I think that last year was just bad from the beginning, like from the preseason. Jalen Ramsey saying all this stuff about opposing quarterbacks and yada yada. It's like, dude, you better be quiet because if you don't, y'all are going to start losing games and then you're going to look horrible. And that's exactly what happened. So I wish he wouldn't have been doing that. But anyway, yeah, the Jaguars are just kind of in a spot right now. But yeah, not too much to say about that. Connor, what was the I already forgot the other name
Latavius
you
Murray,
mentioned. Okay, so Latavius Murray. I mean, where did he sign to? Sorry,
the Saints.
the Saints. Okay, I mean, I guess the Saints kind of needed to make a move at running back because they lost Mark Ingram. Obviously, still got Alvin Kamara, so that's good for them. He's a beast. But Latavius Murray had some good time in Minnesota. He had some good games there. But he'll be a nice complimentary backup to Alvin Kamara for sure.
Yeah, obviously, Latavius Murray isn't as good as Mark Ingram, but Mark Ingram wasn't there most of the season last year. He was hurt most of it, and so I think that just being Alvin Kamara's backup, that'll actually be a good for both of them because obviously the Saints showed they use 2 running backs. Nick Foles to the Jags. I'm going to disagree with both of you guys. I think this is actually a really good move for the Jags because Blake Bortles is not a good quarterback, and I think that Nick Foles, like anything, is better than Blake Bortles. Honestly, I think Nick Foles will. He's not going to be he won Super Bowl MVP and he won that Super Bowl, but he's not always going to be that good. Obviously, that was like a magical moment. But I still think that he had good years. I think in St. Louis when the Rams were there before he even was the backup in Philadelphia, and I think he came to Philadelphia to compete for a starting spot. And then Carson Wentz obviously won it out, being as talented as he is. But I think that Nick Foles is actually going to do really well for Jacksonville. Part of the reason they weren't that as good last year, Leonard Fournette was hurt a lot of the year, and then I think even T.J. Yeldon, who's the backup, got hurt too. But I think they lost a couple guys on their stellar defense from that team that made the AFC Championship. I don't think that they'll go back to being that good, like maybe not even a playoff team, but I think that they'll be better simply because Nick Foles knows how to be a game manager without turning the ball over a ton, and Blake Bortles just can't do that. He just can't keep the ball on their side of the field. He just turns it over. He's a walking turnover. I think that Nick Foles is going to do well there, and the Jacksonville fans will be happy that they got him.
All right, moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Another Giants player that leaves the Giants, Landon Collins, goes to the Washington Redskins. I don't think that affects anything. I just think that it's kind of crazy that someone that's been on the Giants for so long goes to a division rival. And now that's going to be really interesting, just seeing him on a completely different team. Since there's not really much to say about that one, kind of move into the next big defensive back, Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs, which is just Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs. We'll talk about the other two in a second. But Tyrann Mathieu to the Chiefs is a huge move because they lost Eric Berry, along with other players that we're going to talk about in a little bit when we wrap this up. But losing Eric Berry for that team was huge because he was that guy on that defense. Him and Justin Houston, they were big names on that defense. And to get rid of him and then bring Tyrann Mathieu in, that was huge for them. So I think that's going to really help their defense, that if their defense was just even a touch better, they would have beaten the Patriots in the AFC Championship. So I think Tyrann Mathieu could put them to the next level, but we're also going to be talking about them in a little bit. So just get your thoughts real quick on Landon Collins and Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, the Landon Collins situation, I was kind of bummed to see that. I'm a big fan of Landon Collins, and I wish he would have gone to a better team just because I want to see him, obviously he's going to be a great player no matter where he goes, but I'd like to see him, be on a better team and have a chance to be in the playoffs and win games and stuff. So that kind of stinks. He did get a really nice contract, though, so good for him. Tyrann Mathieu, I've always been a pretty big fan of Tyrann Mathieu as well. I mean, there's a lot of really solid safeties and defensive backs in this league, and Tyrann Mathieu, he's up there with the best of them. And yeah, it's a huge get for the Chiefs. I was really sad to see Eric Berry go, just because I remember, Eric Berry's story with him battling cancer and stuff, and I think a lot of people were rooting for him and were fans of him because of that. But anyway, yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, that's a huge pickup for the Chiefs. Like Connor said, they were literally head to head with the Patriots this past year, and it was just the difference was Tom Brady being Tom Brady. That was the difference, just that last drive. And yeah, Tyrann Mathieu is a great player. I think he'll do really good on the Chiefs, and that'll help for the loss of Eric Berry. But yeah, I like that move.
Yeah, I think you guys covered that Tyrann Mathieu move pretty well. So I'm gonna actually talk a little bit about that Landon Collins one. I know you guys said the Redskins weren't that good, but actually last year, I think, just a few weeks left, they were only a game out of first place. I know that they ended up finishing bad, but they had a lot of injuries because, Alex Smith was the quarterback there before he got hurt, and they, had to bring in Colt McCoy from Texas. But Adrian Peterson is still there. And then I don't know if you guys remember this, Darius Geis, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was the rookie last year from LSU who ended up not playing at all, but he was supposed to be like a really good rookie running back. They were talking about him, being another one of those guys who comes in as a rookie and leads the league in rushing, which has happened a couple of years in a row. Before last year, maybe. No, last year because Saquon did it again. But then defensively, they got Josh Norman already, and I think that's a pretty scary secondary to have Josh Norman and Landon Collins back there. So I think that's actually a really good move for the Redskins. Could put them in contention in that division. And then, yeah, obviously adding Tyrann Mathieu to a team as good as the Chiefs is pretty scary. So.
All right, and so moving on to Earl Thomas and Eric Weddle. Earl Thomas, obviously coming off of a horrific leg injury from his stint in Seattle, signs with the Baltimore Ravens, who lost Eric Weddle, who went to the Rams. So just kind of talking about these moves together. I think the Earl Thomas, Eric Weddle kind of swap is exactly what it sounds like for the Ravens. It's a swap one all-pro safety for another, really. I mean, they're not real similar players, but in a sense, they're going to do the exact same thing on that defense. So Earl Thomas is coming into a lacking defense now. They lost C.J. Mosley, who we're going to talk about, and they lost Terrell Suggs. But Earl Thomas is going to play virtually the same role that Eric Weddle did. Eric Weddle now going to a Rams team that defense was what was supposed to win them the Super Bowl is just going to add on to that great defense. I think that he's going to fit in well there, and that I don't think Todd Gurley is going to be the same running back, but I don't think that they're going to perform the same on offense, but I think that their defense is going to be just as good, if not better, even though Ndamukong Suh, who I still don't think has signed yet, more than likely will not be back with the Rams. So they lost that front guy. But gaining Eric Weddle for that secondary could be huge for them. So, Logan, just get your thoughts on Earl Thomas and Eric Weddle.
Yeah, Eric Weddle to the Rams is obviously huge. I mean, the Rams were in the Super Bowl, so we know they're a great team. Like you said, they may be losing to Ndamukong Suh. I mean, they still got Aaron Donald and some other good pieces. But adding Eric Weddle to a secondary, who I think their cornerbacks were not like top tier in the league, but not like – I mean, they were like – their defense was, like Connor said, that defensive line, that front seven, really solid. Adding Eric Weddle makes the secondary a lot better, which I think was the part of their defense that needed to get better. But yeah, so that's a really good move on their part. And then Earl Thomas to the Ravens. I like the Ravens because of Lamar Jackson. He's so much fun to watch. And I mean, now they add Mark Ingram to that offense, which should be really fun to watch as well. And adding him to that secondary, obviously, as Connor mentioned, they lost C.J. Mosley and I believe Terrell Suggs as well. But, the Ravens, I think, are at a pretty good spot with Lamar Jackson right now, and just trying to build around him. So I'll send it to Noah.
Yeah, I think that the Ravens are always a good defensive team. So even though they are losing a couple of pieces, they'll still continue to be a good defense. And I think that freaking Earl Thomas will fit in really nicely there. Good defender coming from another good defensive team. But the Rams, they added Eric Weddle, but they also added, correct me if I'm wrong, they added Clay Matthews. And then they already had Dante Fowler, but they re-signed him. They had like a very talented defense, even in comparison to last year, where they already had a lot of guys. So that defense is going to be really good, top tier, obviously. And then, like Connor said, Todd Gurley is coming off that injury. So hopefully, for the sake of his career, he'll continue to be a good player. But, I mean, we'll see, because I know it's kind of a big time, and not career ending, but career altering injury that he's dealing with. And then also, like you said, Logan, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram, that'll be very interesting to hopefully help them offensively. That'll be it's a different dynamic there offensively than a lot of other teams because Lamar Jackson's such a good running quarterback. So hopefully he can continue to develop as a passer, and then, we'll see how good they're able to be. But I think that both of those moves are good for those teams. So.
All right, moving on to the three big moves that were made in the front seven. You have Trey Flowers to the Lions, which essentially he's replacing Ezekiel Ansah, who they did not re-sign. Michael Bennett, who was traded to the Patriots, who the Patriots replaced as best as they could in All-Pro and Trey Flowers. I think Michael Bennett's really going to help the Patriots front seven, who was kind of lacking on identity. Because Trey Flowers was great, but they were still lacking that big name almost to make defenses remember, even though Trey Flowers had a career year. And then CJ Mosley to the Jets, who's adding to a relatively young defense with Jamal Adams. So I think that's the AFC East defenses just got a lot better, adding a great edge rusher and adding a great linebacker. And the Lions, they replaced and improved upon Ezekiel Ansah, who's been battling injuries. So I think that's big moves for all three of those teams, and they're all going to be effective day one, and no matter where they're thrown in their schemes, especially since Trey Flowers is going back to his former defensive coordinator and Matt Patricia. Michael Bennett's going to a team that he came out and said that he used to hate, so that'll be fun banter between him and the team. And then CJ Mosley, I'm pretty sure he didn't care about the Jets before they gave him $56 million. But it's going to be fun watching those new big names on different teams who can affect their defenses coming in. So Logan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll start with Trey Flowers. I'm a Giant. Not a Giants fan. I'm a Lions fan, obviously. So I was really excited to see Trey Flowers sign with the Lions, because the Lions defense, I feel like in the past few years has been pretty solid for the most part. They've had their ups and downs, their good games, their bad games, 50 points to the Saints here and there. But anyway, I think the Lions defense has been pretty decent over the past few years. There's a lot more issues on the offensive side of the ball. But anyway, Trey Flowers is a good pickup. I'm sad to see Ziggy go. He still hasn't signed with anyone, so I guess there's still a chance, but I don't think he'll be coming back. I really liked Ezekiel Ansah, and I wish he would, stay with the Lions if they would, extend him or give him a new contract, whatever it may be. But picking up Trey Flowers is a good pickup. Lions have gotten several young linebackers like Gerard Davis from Florida in the past couple of years, just to start building up that defense. Have had pretty good defensive backs like Darius Slay, Glover Quinn for the past few years. So I think that's good. And then finally got a decent running back in Kerryon Johnson. So anyway, it's a good pickup for the Lions. Just continue to build. Like Connor said, he's back with Matt Patricia. That'll be good. So yeah, I like that move. And then Michael Bennett to the Patriots. That's cool. He's a vet. The Patriots like to sign those type of guys, those vets, those proven guys that have won, have, succeeded in the league, have done well. And then CJ Mosley to the Jets is a really good pickup for the Jets. I think it would have been even scarier if the Jets could have hung on to Anthony Barr. It's unfortunate that they weren't able to get Anthony Barr, one of the faster linebackers in the league. Anthony Barr and CJ Mosley together would have been incredible for the Jets. But at least getting one of them was still really big for them. So those are all good moves, I think.
Yeah, Logan, it would have been cool had we gotten Anthony Barr. I think, like you said, that'd been very dangerous, especially as we already have Darren Lee. But I don't think we would have been able to sign Le'Veon. Looking back at it, maybe. But at the time, there was rumors that Le'Veon was going to sign elsewhere, which probably was trying to just increase the amount the Jets were going to pay him. But CJ Mosley should really help that defense, as we got a new defensive coordinator too, and offense, knew everything coaching staff wise. But Jamal Adams said we needed some dogs, and CJ Mosley's a dog, so that should help. As our young guys, like Hunter said, the young defense continues to grow. I think that'll really help the defense, especially with a coach that is very loud, I can't even think of a good word right now, very fierce, very aggressive. But we'll see how much he can get out of the defense. As far as Michael Bennett to the Patriots, until I literally see it, I will refuse to believe that anybody other than the Patriots is going to win every single game. I've just seen Tom Brady win way too much. As much as I don't like them, he just does it. So, yeah, add Michael Bennett. Don't add Michael Bennett. I seriously think that, Belichick could go win a Super Bowl with a bunch of rookies or a bunch of college guys, whatever. Bill Belichick's incredible. But and then the other move was Trey Flowers to the Lions. Lions, I think, they're usually just sitting around being an average team. They have Matthew Stafford, which, you know, hasn't quite had, since Calvin Johnson left, he's had Golden Tate, but he hasn't quite had that same guy and especially with a lack of running game. Now they have Kerryon Johnson, so hopefully that helps offensively. But like you said, Logan, the defense isn't as much the issue as it is the offense. So hopefully that move will help, especially like you guys said, being back with Matt Patricia. But I mean, I guess, you just really got to see out of Detroit. It's so interesting there because, it's like no matter how much talent they have, it's Detroit. My uncle always tells me this. He says, it doesn't really matter how good the Lions do. It's Detroit. We're not going to win anything. So we'll see. Hopefully they can actually produce some wins there. But I'm going to send this back to Connor.
All right, yeah, and kind of just to wrap up this video, I want to do like the biggest winner of the offseason and the biggest loser of the offseason. So I'd say it's a pretty clear winner for me in the Cleveland Browns. They not only did they pick up OBJ, they picked up Olivier Vernon, who's going to help on their defense that we didn't talk about. I think they're just an all-around team that was somehow built within about 2 years to contend for a team. Granted, it was because of the downfall of the Steelers. But I think that team is going to be able to succeed this season. I think they easily came out on top of free agency, getting one of the best receivers in the league, getting a great rusher. This is going to be kind of a controversial biggest loser until I explain why. I think Kansas City is the biggest loser of free agency this year, even though they did pick up Tyrann Mathieu. They lost Dee Ford, who was an up-and-coming top edge rusher who did cost them the AFC Championship game, but still one of the best edge rushers in the AFC. They lost Justin Houston, who was a great linebacker for them. And they lost Eric Berry, but we already talked about Tyrann Mathieu coming in for him. So the other big piece that this is kind of making me say that they're the biggest losers because of everything going on with Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs really can't catch a break with all of these domestic abuse cases between Kareem Hunt and now Tyreek Hill. So I'd say even if they don't lose Tyreek Hill to a suspension for half the year, the entire year, they cut him like they did Kareem Hunt, they still lost their defense. And their defense last year was not good. You cannot lose a top linebacker and your number one edge rusher and expect to have the same identity on defense. Patrick Mahomes, as good as he is, he cannot go 2 seasons in a row putting up 40 points a game, especially if they lose Tyreek Hill for even half the season. If they lose him for half the season, I'd see Patrick Mahomes having half the success. You still have Travis Kelce, but you don't have that downfield target that can just burn any corner in the league. So no matter what, with Tyreek Hill, without Tyreek Hill, I think Kansas City lost their front seven on defense. They don't have an identity on defense up front anymore, and that's really going to hurt them considering that they couldn't hold most teams to a low-scoring game. So winner of the offseason, the Cleveland Browns. Loser, the Kansas City Chiefs. Logan, get your winners and losers.
Yeah, as much as I would love to say my Lions are the winners, and I think the Lions are up there, I'm actually looking at it now. The Lions also, we forgot to mention, got Danny Amendola, who's a solid slot receiver. Trey Flowers, obviously, we mentioned. Also, cornerback Justin Coleman and tight end Jesse James, all really solid players. I'm going to have to go with the Cleveland Browns as well. I think, OBJ is one of my favorite players in the league, and I remember last year. So last year, OBJ had, I believe, 2 touchdown passes. They had some trick plays with him and Saquon, and now you bring him to Cleveland, and you've got Baker as a quarterback. You've got a solid running back in Nick Chubb, and there's another running back there I can't remember, but you've also got Jarvis Landry. Like I said, I think their offense is going to be the most unstoppable offense in the league. I mean, obviously the Chiefs are up there as well, but biggest winner, yeah, Cleveland Browns, obviously. Biggest loser, I'm going to have to say the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they just fell apart. This could have been the offseason that they extended Antonio Brown to a huge deal. They could have, extended Le'Veon Bell to a huge deal, maybe drafted their next quarterback. And yeah. And also, I talked about the Lions signed Jesse James. Jesse James was, a really, really productive tight end for the Steelers, who had that controversial controversial catch against the Patriots. So yeah, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Jesse James, the chemistry just falling apart. So I'm gonna say Browns winners, and Steelers losers.
As much as I absolutely loved the moves the Jets made, I'm not gonna say them as my biggest winner, just to avoid some bias. I'm gonna talk about the Eagles. I don't think we really talked about many moves they made other than losing Nick Foles, but they added Deshaun Jackson, Malik Jackson, who's a defensive tackle, and then they practically traded half a sandwich for Jordan Howard. I think that was actually one of the more underrated moves. And can Carson Wentz stay healthy? We'll see. But if he does, I mean, they're right back in contention. And then I think an obvious loser would be the Giants, but I'm going to say that the Dolphins were the biggest loser. They traded away a lot of guys and signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, which basically says, hey, we're going to rebuild. But then, Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to screw that up for him. He's going to play spectacular and then they're in contention. Then he'll start sucking. So I've just seen it too many times. Ryan Fitzpatrick do that exact same thing. So he got paid. So now he'll do okay for a little bit and then he'll suck. But I'd say the Dolphins are the biggest losers from the NFL offseason, and they arguably are going to be the worst team in the NFL next season. So I'm going to send this back to you, Connor, to wrap it up.
All right, before I wrap it up, I would like to apologize for being stupid. Michael Bennett was on the Philadelphia Eagles last year, not the Seattle Seahawks. So sorry for saying the wrong team that he was on. But that's going to be it for our NFL offseason wrap-up. We're going to be bringing more consistent content. We kind of got off with our spring breaks, but now that we're back, we're going to get back into it. And make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. Let us know what you want to see in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.